For this week's episode, I'm getting a little bit self-indulgent as I take a look at one of my favourite characters. Sentinel of Cybertron's golden age, the Autobots' ultimate weapon. These are the basics on Omega Supreme. The toy that would become Omega Supreme was originally released by the Japanese toy company Toybox as the Super Change Robo Mechabot 1, and was imported by Hasbro to become part of the second year of the Transformers toy line in 1985. Omega transformed rather unconventionally. He basically disassembled into a pile of component parts, which were rebuilt to become a defense base, comprising a tank, a rocket, and a launch gantry surrounded by a track. Omega was the first motorized toy in the Transformers line. The tank could drive around the track, or in robot mode, Omega could be sent marching into action. The profile for Omega Supreme written by Marvel Comics writer Bob Budiansky described him as incredibly powerful, a guardian specifically designed to serve as the Autobots' last line of defense, an enormous responsibility that the grim Omega accepted without question. Omega Supreme joined the cast of the original Transformers animated series midway through its second season, his rocket mode broadening the scope of the cartoon's stories by allowing the Autobots to travel to other planets. A formidable opponent the merest mention of whose name could put Decepticons to flight, Omega was explained to be one of the Guardian robots. Massive peacekeepers originally built by the Transformers' alien creators, the Quintessons, who policed Cybertron during the Golden Age before the war. Back then, Omega was the defender of Crystal City, until it was destroyed by the very architects who had built it, the Constructicons, former friends of Omega's who had been reprogrammed for evil by Megatron and his Robo-Smasher. Attempting in vain to save his friends, Omega was affected by the Robo-Smasher himself. Almost all emotion was purged from his mind, leaving him a cold, unfeeling sentinel who desired only revenge on the Constructicons, and who spoke only in short robotic statements.
Talk premature, disturbance unnecessary, talk excessive, time limited, sarcasm not appreciated.
However, when Omega's quest for vengeance inadvertently resulted in an alien monster being unleashed on San Francisco, he was finally able to let go of his anger when he chose to save the city over claiming his revenge. Later in the series, he would share a similar lesson with the selfish Aerial Bots when he almost sacrificed his life to transport them from Cybertron to Earth, inspiring them to look beyond their own interests and become heroes. In the Marvel comic book, on the other hand, Omega Supreme was designed and built on Earth by the Autobot architect Grapple. In his frankly awe-inspiring debut outing, he single-handedly destroyed 6 Decepticons, including Starscream, and went on to assume a position of authority in the Autobot ranks, overseeing the funeral of Optimus Prime and lending his voice to debates over who would be the next Autobot leader. But even Omega's power couldn't compete with the power of corporate mandate. The discontinuation of his toy in 1987 led him to be phased out of the comic when his old victim Starscream returned to life and gained cosmic powers, which he used to offline Omega, just as the giant Autobot had once done to him. No further toys of Omega were released in North America during the original Generation 1 toy line. But in Europe and Australasia, a small-scale Action Master Elite figure of the character was released in 1991, with a new tank alternate mode and a very 90s color scheme. Oddly, this figure was named Omega Supreme, S-P-R-E-E-M, possibly as the result of a miscommunication with the Japanese toy designers. Depictions of Omega Supreme in the 21st century have all tended to forego his Marvel Comics origin as a modern-day creation, hewing instead to the cartoon's take on him as one of a legion of guardians from Cybertron's past. In particular, Dreamwave Productions' comic books gave the Guardian robots a new, more evocative name inspired by Omega himself, the Omega Sentinels, which would carry forward to all future incarnations of the group. The first brand new incarnation of Omega Supreme debuted in Transformers Energon in 2004. This version of the character was a headmaster, a kind of transformer whose head was formed by a smaller robot. And like his Generation 1 predecessor, he transformed by dividing his body into multiple components. In this case, a train and a battleship, which could also transform into weapon emplacements or combine to form an armored super train. Omega could also combine with the Energon version of Optimus Prime to form Optimus Supreme. As seen in the Energon cartoon, this Omega was an ancient warrior who fended off an attack against Cybertron by the evil Unicron in the distant past, after which he entered stasis deep within the planet. When Unicron returned in the present day, the Transformers god Primus and human ally Dr. Brian Jones located Omega's resting place and reawakened him to join the fight. By merging with Optimus Prime and growing to colossal height, Omega helped defeat Unicron once more. IDW Publishing also depicted Omega as hailing from Cybertron's forgotten prehistory in their comic books. In this continuity, Omega was leader of the Omega Sentinels and served the original 13 Primes, whose capital, the Crystal City, he continued to guard even after the Primes themselves disappeared. When a new Prime, Nova, emerged, Omega helped him establish Cybertron's golden age, only for the pair to fall out when Nova revealed his true evil nature. Found years later by Optimus Prime, Omega initially sided with the Autobots in their war with the Decepticons, but eventually chose to leave Cybertron and live out his days in seclusion. However, he would emerge from hiding in the present day to rescue Optimus's forces from the Decepticons' mutant Insecticon swarm. He spent some time serving as the Autobots' headquarters on Earth in his base mode, but upon his return to Cybertron, he sustained injuries in a Decepticon bombing that would leave him comatose for years, and eventually claimed his life. Transformers Animated laid the seeds for the appearance of its version of Omega Supreme in its very first episode in 2007.
Activate emergency defense system, codename Omega!
But it wouldn't be until the finale of the second season in 2008 that the giant Autobot was revealed to have been hiding in plain sight all series long in the form of the Autobots spacecraft. Built as a weapon of mass destruction, the simple-minded animated Omega had been instrumental in the Autobots winning the war over the Decepticons millions of years ago. But left badly injured, his mind had been shut down and his body stasis-locked into spacecraft mode, used during peacetime by Optimus Prime's Space Bridge repair team. Reawakened on Earth by his old friend Ratchet and the power of the Allspark, Omega was captured by and fell under the control of the Decepticons. But with the Autobots' help, he broke free and helped defeat a trio of evil clones of himself that the villains had created. Ancillary media even featured an animated version of Omega Supreme, who in this continuity was a prototype who predated Omega's creation. But unfortunately, no toy of either of them was released in the animated line. Another new incarnation of Omega Supreme was featured in the War for Cybertron video game in 2010. Last of the Omega Sentinels and guardian of the Omega Gate that led to Cybertron's core, Omega transformed into a giant spaceship and served as the final boss of the game's Decepticon campaign. This version of the character did get a toy in 2013, but it was only a recolor of the Energon figure with a new head and claw arm based on the game design. However, the first brand new Omega Supreme toy in 15 years is soon due to arrive as part of the War for Cybertron Siege toy line. A faithful reinvention of the original Generation 1 toy, complete with base, tank and rocket components, Siege Omega clocks in at a towering 2 feet in height, so big that Micromasters like his pack-in partner Countdown can fit inside his vehicle modes. From his physical appearance to his role as the ultimate Autobot defender to his connections to Cybertron's past, Omega Supreme is another example of a Transformers character whose portrayal has remained remarkably consistent over the years. The same applies to the rest of the Omega Sentinels, who've had enough appearances and toys of their own to justify their own dedicated basics video in the future. But Omega has also managed to appear just sparingly enough to ensure that he never loses his oomph. It's always an event when he shows up. Precedent established. Conclusion inevitable. Omega Supreme.
Pera, não vai embora ainda não, galera. Antes do final do vídeo, eu sempre indico algum canal parceiro aqui do Nova Cybertron. Então fortalece aí, clica lá no vídeo que a gente vai colocar no cardzinho, que sempre tem alguma coisa a ver com esse episódio que você está assistindo no momento, ou a gente está fazendo uma divulgação para fortalecer algum canal amigo. Dá essa força aí, um abraço.
And those are the basics on my boy Omega Supreme. Which is your favorite version of the big guy, or your favorite Omega story? Let's hear about it in the comments. Please hit like, hit share, and hit subscribe for more from the world of the Transformers.